Around 4 or 5 lines into Os Gimel.
Gam Nisar
B'Chatichas Pesach B'Rov Basar Chulin. When Pesach got mixed up into Rov Chulin, the Minatorah Chad B'Trei is Batal. So that's a Rambam that the Isra is on the Machel, who's the Jew, so Ein Musar HaMachel did not Batal B'Rov, because according to him it's not Korban Pesach anymore. But however, that's HaSmag, that the Ochel is Musar, the Goy, Uliv Nei Noach After the Lomani Bittel. He said that's a Shiloh, there's such a process of Bittel B'Rov by a Goy, I am Pri Megadim, who has that Shiloh in Yeridea Sin Snach Beis. And and he doesn't have Bittel B'Rov, possibly. So if he doesn't have Bittul B'Rov, so still he's taking a chance of eating the Korban Pesach, because it didn't become Batul, right? Musar Ochel, so he won't be able to eat it. That's for sure. If he eats the whole thing, he'll be over, because it wasn't Batul. And if he eats 1 or 2, then it would be, the most it could be is Suffolk, because you're not sure he's eating the Korban Pesach. Well, the Fima Shekhasav L'El, according to what we said before, the Nachri Musar B'Chol Gavni Shelo Lechol Pesach V'Das Rashi Tavi Mammon Gaboa, because he said as far that Mammon Gaboa is in Batal, because Mammon is in Batal. So in other words, even if you hold by other Isur, and let's say everyone Achai, it is Batal B'Rov, there is a din of Batal B'Rov by a guy. But he said by Korban Pesach could be, since it's Mammon Gaboa, according to Rashi, even the Chelek HaBailim is Mammon Gaboa, the Bailim get eaten by Mammon Gaboa. So he says, so Goy doesn't have bittul in that case for sure, because it's not, no one has bittul. They have a mammon gavoa, but have a leg gezel, so there would be also, since it's still mammon gavoa, it still would be a gezel.
How do we learn that the mammon is not in the din of rov? Special.
It's a Gemara in Be'ah that says mammon doesn't become bittul. I don't know if the Gemara makes this for it just says
it's drasha.
It's a drasha.
No, it's a svar drasha.
I think it was a svar.
I mean, it's bit. I mean.
Bim kein aser lecho afilu al yedei bittul afim number the gam lebnei noch mahani bittul. But here there's no bittul because mammon kavoa doesn't become bittul, because mikoma from kan lo bittul the mammon bailam lo bittul ayim beilam chasna beis umali mammon kavoa the mammon hedget doesn't become bittul umali mammon kavoa or mammon hedget. Common, this is we learned this. Just reviewing. Common hilchos ma'aser sheni yavesi davar zeh b'shem achronim. Now, Tosis Me'ilu Chafal from Beis, the Remaskal Pruta. The Gemara says, a person says, he has a whole bunch of prutas in his pocket, and he says, I'm a Kaddish, one of the prutas in my pocket. So Tosis, Shamar Pruta because the Kaddish. So Tosis asks the question, what's the whole problem? Because why doesn't the pruta become Batal?
Right.
And the Achronim, Tosis doesn't answer this, but the Achronim answer, since it's hektish, the mammon is not. But the line of the mitzvah Reish Ben Zayin, that because so it comes out Tosus doesn't say this, but the other Achronim say Hektish doesn't become batul. So he's saying Korban Pesach doesn't become batul according to this.
But the assumption is that
Tosus asks the question, why isn't the pruta batul? But Tosus, so the Achronim said they don't understand Tosus kasha.
Right.
Why don't you say Mammon isn't Batal? So, but you see that Tosus didn't hold that way. Tosus held that Mammon Hakdish is Batal. We said as far that Mammon Hakdish is different than Mammon Bailim. As far as that Hakdish is different.
I'm just wanting to think that the reason I mentioned I think about Mammon is the idea of Bittul B'Rov. The idea that Mammon is an exception for Bittul B'Rov. Even if you say Bittul B'Rov may apply to an Akum, if you say it doesn't, if you say Mammon doesn't apply to Bittul B'Rov for a Yid, you'd have to see the reason whether that. In other words, you could say that Bittul B'Rov applies to doesn't go apply to it, but the exception of Mammon may only be for.
Yeah, but I think it's as far. For example, I think it's based on. I'm not sure. You have to look up, but Lamashal, if you own a piece of meat that's treif, and it falls into my meat, that's kosher.
Right.
So even though we hold Batal B'Rov, right? But your mammon didn't become
Batal,
I think, right? It's still your mammon, and you have it's 1 out of 5 pieces, so you will still own 20% of the value. Your mammon doesn't become batal. It's hard. Like Abi Yisurim, it became batal the treifus.
Right.
Yeah, but the mammon, it didn't become butter, because that's as far mammon doesn't become...
yeah, because mammon is not really tied to the chefsa, it's tied to the value, which is not a chefsa. So that really gets into svara.
So, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is the last thing we learned. And in the bottom, we said as far that he said that if it's bottled to the Jew, like he's saying,
right.
So if to the Jew it's not Korban Pesach anymore, so it could be there's no, even though it's not Isser to the Goy, but could be there's no Isser. There could be the Isser in the Goy is a Korban Pesach, which is a Korban Pesach to the Jew. The Goy can't eat, but if it's not a Korban Pesach to the Jew, then it's not a Korban Pesach. Okay, that's the swear we said last. Then it's not a problem. That's to argue with the Minchas Chinuch. And I saw on what we then he says a difference for. He says so Minchas Chinuch is saying that even if there is bittul barov to the goy, and it's not really it doesn't have isurim of korban pesach to the goy, but still the goy won't be able to eat it because it's gezel, it's mammon gavoa, and mammon gavoa is gezel to eat mammon gavoa. So the question is, let's accept what he's saying. If there's no isurim on it, let's say there's no isser shloim nuyev, and it's there, so then maybe everybody could eat it, and it's not gezel. In other words, Hashem said that this belongs to me, and Meshilchan Kavoa, the people who are Zocha, are the Bailim, they're Zocha, and no one else is Zocha. So because there's Dinim, but let's say those Dinim wouldn't be there. In other words, let's say this is a Korban Pesach where there's no thing that Hashem said the Bailim should get it. There's no Shalom Nuyev. Anyone is allowed up he didn't to eat it. In this case, the Bittul Barov, anyone is allowed to eat it. So he's assuming but it's still Gezel. Right, for the goy to eat it, because Hashem wasn't mazakeh him. So what about another Jew if he eats it? Would it be over gezel? I mean, there's no din of shalom nuyev anymore. There's no din of because that was batel. So would you say it's gezel to another Jew, or would you say, well, Hashem is mazakeh to Jews to eat it?
If a korban pesach becomes possible. Right.
Yeah, so he was learning a Korban Pesach plus all the time. I don't know where he said for a Davar Pasha that even when it's possible, it's usher to a goy.
Right. But I'm thinking, does it lose its status as Mammon Gavo at that point in time? Because that's why I'm wondering whether if the Korban Pesach is possible. So if it loses its status as Mammon Gavoa, then or is it the fact it's still Mammon Gavoa, just the reshus to eat it has been removed, which would make that hillik in the sense that you have a situation where, let's say, another Jew eats the Korban Pesach, would it be over, if it's possible, would it be also over Gezel in terms of that as well? I mean, I was just thinking.
Yeah, but that lechara, if there wouldn't have been, it seems that if there's no Eser Shlolom Nuyev.
Yeah.
Right, then it's not another Jew could eat it also, but maybe that's only with special. There's no reshus any place. I mean, the Bailam can't. If it's Mammon Gavoa, the Bailam can't give you reshus to eat it. So.
But you're saying, but that's why what you're saying is that if there's no menu, if there's no restriction there's no restriction from Israel Beheter, so.
Is there a restriction? Is there a restriction of Gezel?
Well, that would depend that if you have.
You're saying maybe it's not Mammon Gavoa anymore, but I'm saying even if it is Mammon Gavoa, but if there's no restrictions, maybe the Torah.
The reshus was taken away.
What?
Even with that.
Maybe you don't need reshus. I was thinking that's what he speaks about on the bottom. He says. He says, there's a story, he says, first he says, maybe there's no law where the Jew doesn't have the mitzvah, right? Then he says, And here he can't be Mekayim Mitzvah because according to the Jul it was Batal, right? Because Mocham Kishis Batal, Basra Pesach Barov, the Shuv Ein Lo Dini Koran Pesach Klal Gabi Yisrael, because the Gabi Yisrael was Batal. Im Kain Sheyia Osir Lagoy Mishum Shem Korban Pesach. So he's saying, who says it would have a Shem Korban Pesach? There's no halachas of Korban Pesach to a Jew. So who says there will still be a halach of Korban Pesach to a goy? But that's a different argument, right? But then I saw, he said, I thought I saw it here. Maybe I just thought of it myself. I thought I saw it here. Maybe I didn't see it here. I was thinking that we once had a Tosus that asks the kasha. It says that if a Kohen could eat the Korban Pesach, it says that Tosus, there's a Gemara that says you could give it to the Kohen. Tosus says what happened to the Yisr of Shalom So Tosus said for some reason there's no Yisr Shalom when you're doing it out Chinuch, which requires an explanation. And the Ran said the whole Isser Shalom Nuyav is only when you're supposed to be where there's a din that you should be in the Minui. Right. So there's an Isser Shalom Nuyav. But a Katan, there's no din that he has to be in the Minui. So there is no Isser Shalom Nuyav. Because he doesn't have to be in the Minui. If you hold Celibate Savas, not the rice, he's not in the Minui anyway. And you can't say, well, he can't eat it al Shalom Nuyav because there's no din in him to be in the Minui in the first place. So you have a case where you're not responsible to be in the minuyim, and you could give it to the Kohen because he doesn't have a din in minui. In Lechora, how did he become a violin with his Mammon Gavoa? How could you give Mammon Gavoa to the Kohen? So I was thinking, how could you? I mean, Kadosh Baruch Hu gave it to you to eat. If you hold Mishulchan Gavoa, so he gave it to you to eat. Where do you have a right to give it to the Kohen? If you look at it as Gezel, it's Mammon Gavoa, and it was given to you to eat, but not to give to anyone else to eat. But there is no Isser Shalom Nuyav. You see, the Brown holds you could give it to the Kohen. So that's what started making me think that maybe that if there was this they were saying that the Gavoa was only to the Bailan. That's where if there's a din Bailan, only the Bailan can eat it, no one else. But if you have a Korban Pesach that all is dinim are batal, and if it remains a Korban Pesach, who says it would be Gizel? Maybe the.
But it's interesting because if a Katan can't be in the Minui, therefore it's not Gezel. So why can't you just say it for a Goy either? He can't be in the Minui either, right? He can't be in the Minui. I mean.
Yeah, so the reason it's also to the Goy is because of this pasuk. What I'm trying to say, but not because of Gezel. Not because of Gezel. Unless you say once the Torah asked him, it became Gezel. But here
so it's Batal Barov, and if Sister falls off, so Gezel will also fall off.
Yeah, that's what it could be. But it's interesting. But I don't understand really. I understand better the Taina that you're Taina that maybe it's no longer Mammon Gavoa in certain cases. I don't know how to find that. But here I'm saying even if it is Mammon Gavoa, who said that there's if the Torah didn't make Yisurim on this, maybe if the Torah said he has to eat it, not a person. It's not a Ba'al Mishlo. If you can't eat it, then it would be Gezel for someone else to do it. But if there is no such Isser involved,
it's interesting because it's like it's Mammon Gavoa, but the point is, what's the restriction of Mammon Gavoa? So you basically come up with the idea that really there's no restriction unless the Torah skips the restriction. So if there's no restriction, then it's
possible. I'm just arguing that possibility.
Right.
It's certainly not like the Minchas Chinuch. But I thought I saw it in here. Maybe I did, but I don't see it.
It raises how would the Minchas Chinuch would have to understand Mammon Gavoa to mean the other way, that no one can use it unless you have Shus. And the way you're understanding it is that it's like a hefker. It's almost like.
Yeah. So according to Minchas Chinuch, I'm just saying if another Jew would eat it, Shalom Nuyav, he shouldn't just be over the Yisr Shalom Nuyav. He should be over Gezel. A Jew's not allowed to steal. He's not allowed to steal from Hektish either, unless you say that we had a Hoshayla. It could be there is no Isser Gezel, maybe it's only an Isser Me'ila, but it's not an Isser. But then there should be a Me'ila. We don't say if he eats a Korban Pesach, we say he's over Shalom Nuyah. We don't say he's over Me'ila. Shalom Nuyah, some people hold it's not even a lav, it's like an essay. You don't know where you're darshan it from, so it's, they don't approach it as a case of Gezel. Anyway, that was my Harvard's.
That would apply to all. That would really apply to all Karbanas almost.
I know it's a
the
basic.
Bailam being, and there's just Bailam itself, which is Mama Gavot. I mean, it's very interesting. I mean, it's a very interesting idea that theoretically what you're saying is that really anyone can eat from the Korban unless there's a restriction. But the assumption is almost like a democratic assumption that really anyone should be allowed to eat it. But
not necessarily because of the way the other Achronim learned that that's not Mammon Gavoa isn't really a bias. It's not. There's no. Even if it's Mammon Gavoa, but could be the Mammon Gavoa allows anyone unless he restricts it.
Right.
So I don't know anything about these things, but it's basic.
And this is, and Mitzvah Chinuch is basically saying that really you shouldn't. You have to have specific rishus
to do
it.
So then a person, a Jew that's Shalom Niyav, who doesn't have rishus,
it's Gezel.
It would be
Gezel as well.
Gezel, unless you tell me a chiddush that the fact that Hashem made an Isser Shalom Niyav shows you it's not really Gezel to him. It's just a side Isser, but that's already it's possible. But if that's like that, okay, let's go weiter.
Okay.
Os Dalet.
Well, but if it's Usser als Gezel, so why is, according to the Smug, why do you need a separate Isser for a goy on this? It would be Usser anyways for the goy to eat it, no? Right?
So why would you need a special
Isser?
So he dealt with that, but then we he had something like that, I think. I think he himself dealt with that, right? Right. No, I remember. I have some recollection that we dealt with it, but I don't remember what it was. I think we had this last week, and I don't remember. Yes, we have. Maybe at the very beginning when he spoke about a Hu Harmoa, right? He said there was over something like that. That's what we saw. He does say that the goy is over Gezel. I don't think about it. Let's learn a little bit later, so for something. Halachik Dalet, Os Dalet. V'hinei ala kol adinim shebiyanu le'el the mitzvah kodemes, by the mitzvah of not giving Korban Pesach to a Meshumid, to to a mumer, right? Shaykh Khan, but Asr Lahanos as Agoyim, because he said, when it said you can't feed it, includes that Hanoah, because the Chila includes Hanoah. We said there wasn't so Pashav, that was so beneficial. Asr Lahanos as Agoyim, Bikor and Pesach, the Kaimlunk will be a Vol, Psach and Taf, Chalaf and Vez, the Isra Hanoah, Nami Mashmut, even though it says a Chila, it includes Isra Hanoah. Because Makam Mashak Asabna Bulav the Leil, Ulav Zeh, the Gam Lakaman, Shadin Kain Ba'oral the Asr, the Asr. Now the same thing is true when it says an oral can't eat the Korban Pesach, so it would be Asr Ba'anav him too. Kasha, he says there's a kasha on that. The Bepera Kol Shoah, Daf Gimel Mabay is Maksha, Miqdi, Osvinu Kol Hanoi Kroa, Shaninu Chizkiel Rabbi Yabol my pligi. The more I asked kashas from different braces and different sukim kasha and Chizkiel kasha Rabboni, and each one had a mahalach out of it. So then the Gemara says, so what's the practical machlokas? We know that there's a different shitas in how to translate the psukim, but they end up with the same results. So the Gemara says, so what's the practical nafkamina between Rabbi Yabol and Rabbi Chizda? The chila includes hanoah. Because according to the one that says the chila doesn't include hanoah, where we see it's usher, he said there's special psukim to be married by hanoah. The one who says achila includes hanoah, he has other things to do with those psukim, but they agree in principle to all the cases. So the Gemara says, what's the practical difference? Well, if he according to what we just said, the Gemara could have answered the Blav and Eila pligi, that there would be a practical difference by these Yisurim where it says you can't be machol to a mumer or to a goy, the lachas cheskim mutter b'hano, because he holds achila only means achila. L'riyavo aser b'hano. So there would be a practical difference. The Gemara could have answered this practical difference. It's not such a tiny, because the Gemara says a few differences, and I think the Rishonim have other cases where there are differences. They say the Gemara doesn't have to count all the cases. So I guess he's referring to another case where there would be a difference, but I'm not sure which these cases to be. If you're machal to a goy, even if the goy is a cheresh mekain, Gamkin over Balavza, if there's an Indian to be machal to a goy, you'll begin over the Slav. He's for the goy. The ben nechor, if by the Isra of a mumer, he's a ben nechor, lo shayach le'kan, because he doesn't have das to be a ben nechor. Avu goy, but if the Isra is not to be machal a goy, he's chayiv b'chol Indian who push it. V'das arrived at kan ba'asagas perik tes halacha zayin. The lav hazeh, now it's a new chiddush, that this pasuk which says you can't give it to a ger b'toshev, he says the lav hazeh hu shalolam nuyav. I don't know how he darshan it, but he says this pasuk is you learn out there's a los aseh, a person who's not in the minui to eat the korban pesach. The misha ein emonu el pesach v'ochel min a pesach over a lav zeh. Ayin yudam stuff ayin on the base, so it's the ramaskol alamba. I guess they discussed this shaila venerally, but that according that I think the Rishonim over there say it's only an essay, but the Rabbi is saying this pasuk refers to Shalom Nuyat. Venerally Gamkain, she says according to the Rabbi it'll come out to Aser Ba'anol Didan the kind of Lekrevo, since we pass on Lekrevo Achilik Litzanoah, so it will come out that a person who's not in the minui would be Asr Ba'anoah. Below Matzinu B'shiyif or Akasav Heter, and it's not a case where the Torah says a special Heter, like other cases where the Torah says Achila, and it's Mutter Ba'anoah, because there's more direction of Sukkim to Mutter Ba'anoah, but here's no possible to Mutter Ba'anoah. So it should come out that according to Rabbi Avo, it would be Asr Ba'anoah. According to Ravid, the Gemara could have said this practical difference between Chizki and Avo in the case of a person who Shlolam Niyav eats the Korban Pesach, if it's Asr Ba'anoah to him also. Well, if he's there, Apple Das Tosa Sheivenu Liel, the Chelek HaBailim Hu Mammon Hedget, not like Rashi, says the Chelek the Bailim is Mammon Hedget, or Rashoy LeKadosh Bo'isha, he can Kadosh and Isha, him came B'Pesach, so by Korban Pesach, whereas in any Shlolam Niyav, so and you can hold according to Rabbi Avo, it's Asr Ba'anoah. So let's say he's Makadosh and Isha with the Korban Pesach, and she's Shalom Nuya, but it's not going to be a Kedushin because it's Asr Ba'anoah to her. So it's going to come out in Kain B'Pesach Davka Shekidish B'Chel Ko Isha Nuya Pesach. So it's only going to be a Kedushin, and his Chelik he's B'Bailing because according to Tosas, it's not making Mammon Gavoa, your Zocha is his own. So if you're Makadosh and Isha, who's Shalom Nuya, it's not going to be a good Kedushin because it's Asr Ba'anoah to her. To her. But so you have to say, but you could only mekadosh anisha with it who's in the minuyim. So dafka because shekidish b'chalko isha mniyu lo pesach zeh. Avol mekadosh isha she'enu b'chaburazu kilun didoa aser banoa enu mekudeshes ayin Ebenezer that something is aser banoa if it's mutter to you but it's aser to someone else to the isha it's still not a good kedushin. Okay. But that's I don't know where the Ravid's what the Ravid's mucker is. If you're looking at what he says, how does he know this law applies to an Eno Lemnuyim? You have to see. With no Haggis, so then it said this mitzvah is no Haggis by Ayin Le'el Mitzvah Yud Gimel that applies to Zchorim and Akebis and the Hinei Le'harayba the lav Zehum Yishlam Shalol Lemnuyim. He says the lav is because this is the whole source of Shalom Nuyah.
So he's saying it doesn't apply to a goy, or he's saying.
I don't think so. I think he's saying it. I think he's learning. To me, it's mashma that he's learning that that's the getter of the Slav. But anyone who's not in the Menuya it applies to.
And a goy can't be part of the Menuya.
Yeah. But I'm not so sure. But so sure, he's not saying it's only. I mean, the Gemara says it's talking about. I mean, we quoted the Gemara in Yavamas that it's talking about a ger toshav or a person that was more below Tavo.
Right.
So you can't argue with the Tanakh. You must hold from there. You learn out anyone. These people can't be in the Menuyim and Shalom Menuyim, or you could also learn out Shalom Menuyim. I don't know. So Yisnami Noeg b'chol hachayavim b'mitzvahs. So this Isra Shalom Menuyim would apply to anyone who's chayav b'mitzvahs. Chutz m'cherer shol to a kan. Lavin that lavin don't apply to a cherer shol to a kan. Ach v'hachil kan b'yadayim. But to give a cotton b'yadayim, the b'chol alav and rov shitas rishonim the aser lachilim b'yadayim in the Torah, because there's only 3 psukim, but most rishonim learn out from those 3 psukim. We learn out there's an iser to give an aser to imachol a cotton isurim b'yadayim in kol Torah kula. We call makom, so it comes out then over here by korban Pesach. L'chorah there should be an iser to give a cotton biyodayim because shalom nuyiv is an iser vav. We call makom kan kvarevenu divrei atosos as we brought before. He says in mitzvah a divrei atosos psachim daf peches without there in Moscow seh the makom chinuch mitzvah lo shayach. When you're giving the pesach to a cotton of chinuch, there's no problem of asher lachilam shalom nuyiv. Yafilu im ein mitzvah. And it's not because there's a mitzvah for the Kohen eating the Pesach, even if there's no mitzvah at all for the Kohen to eat. The Kagon, im a Kohen achal a Pesach. Let's say you hold there's a mitzvah for a Kohen to eat it, but let's say he ate already a Pesach and you're giving him more. So you're not doing any mitzvah at all of giving it to him. And Tosa says, but still, there's no Isser of Lolam Nuyah because of Chinuch.
He's asking this question in the Ravid. He's saying, he's asking the question, no, Tosas asked the question about being the Minoi in general,
right.
But he's bringing this question from that's what I'm trying because he.
No, he's saying that the Chorah we would say according to the Raiva there's a lav and it would be us for lahachol.
Right. Therefore.
So he's saying but could be. There's a svar of Tosas that when you're doing it al Chinuch, there's no Isser lahachol b'yadayim.
And he's applying it now to the Raiva.
Maybe the Raiva would agree with that also.
No, Tosas' question is. There's a bittul essay.
Right.
So because of that bittul essay, it's also also to machal to
right.
It also
right.
So bittul essay is also, and this will be machal b'yadayim to a kohen.
Right. So the only 8 say was out chinuch. So he's saying even according to the Raiva that it's a lav.
Where it's love and if it's the rice love, you apply.
Could be chinuch helps.
I mean,
as far as how does chinuch help? Well, let's just finish because he's going to go.
I understand.
Okay.
But he's actually making it sort of helps in a stronger problem.
Right.
Right. Okay. That's right. Right.
So he says, "Mikom akfar hivenu divrei Tosah b'sachim daf peches v'nal dir maskal seh the makom chinuch mitzvah lo shayach." So there is no iser. V'yafilu im ein mitzvah. And even if in a case where when you're giving to the Kohen, there's no mitzvah of chinuch involved. You go on him a Kohen achol Pesach because let's say you already mechanech him in Pesach, he ate already. Now you're giving him more. V'ein kan chinuch. So he's saying it still would be mutter according to Tosas. So I don't know how he knows that, but you have to see. In other words, he's learning that once you're allowed to give it to the Kahan out Chinuch, so it doesn't apply to the whole issue of giving a mitzvah to a Kahan, even in a case where there's no Chinuch. Let's see if he explains it more. So maybe he's going to explain it. Gam Hevein Divya Ran in the Durham. That's the Ran I just told you before. The Laman Dever Sola Beisov is Lav Deraisa. The Minatora Katanim are part of the Pesach, and the Ain't Srichin Lihimanos Ala Pesach. And there's no Indian they could be eat the Pesach even without. There's no din that you have to be amount of them. Mikol Mokum Ochim, yet they still eat up of Shalom, even though they're not in the Minui. Lo Shayach Lo Sachilim, so there's no Israel Lo Sachilim. The Ain't Pesach Nachal Shalom Nuyev. Elam Nuyev, you can't say, how could he give it to them? You need to be in the Minui. Hani Mili Beraylimus, that's the person who's supposed to be in the Minui. Avo Katanim, the Ran says, Delav B'nei Hachi, that there's no din on them to be in the Minui. Leslan Bon, there's no Isser of Shalom Nuyev. Im Kain, Mutter Lach, Katanim, Dain Isser of Shalom Nuyev, Ela Berayli Manos. So it should come out that there's no din of lo sachilim according to the Ran. So he's saying even if the Ravid says there's a lav, but there's no lav in this case. It's only a lav that there's an isser shalol nuyev. But if there's no isser shalol nuyev, there is no lav, and the Ran says there is no, where there's no din of minuim, there's no problem with shalol nuyev.
Sharson shows that also there's no din of minuim. They can't be part of the minuim.
I guess. The only line I don't understand is where he said, according to Tosas, that it's mutter even if it's not a case of chinuch. So let me see what he says in the bottom of here. Tosas only said mishum chinuch. It's hard to understand what the chinuch had there, but Tosas only said mishum chinuch. Maybe he means in a case of chinuch, and he says Tosas means even in a case where there's no chinuch. For example, you were mechanachim already. You already ate the Pesach. You're still allowed to give it to him.
But that's an interesting definition of chinuch in the sense that
he's saying it's not chinuch. He's not defining chinuch. He's saying even in a case where
if you already, in terms of chinuch, if you were already mekayim chinuch, but he's saying that once the cotton ate,
you were mekayim chinuch already.
You were mekayim chinuch. That to me is interesting in the sense that teaching him to eat again. I mean, like I guess. If you teach a cotton to do Kiddush on Shabbos, right, so he says Kiddush Friday night. So you're saying if he says Kiddush again, it's not Chinuch? I mean,
if you give him a little Balin Minim and he was Yotze, there's a mitzvah to give him a second time or a third time, it's more Chinuch.
That's what I'm wondering about.
Chinuch is on the mitzvah. If there's no more.
If you actually Mekayim if you are Mekayim the mitzvah. It
could be the chinuch and a kiyum mitzvah, but I don't know. He's learning that there's no kiyum mitzvah either over here at all.
It's interesting. I mean, the fact, or once you're talking in terms of chinuch, you got to eat up the stuff. So the fact is that what about chinuch?
Absolutely, it's not like gedolim that are going to eat the stuff up, and they're going to do it.
Okay, but maybe.
Just clean it on him that he shouldn't unnecessary.
Yes, I mean it could be.
Let me just see what he says in the bottom.
Where the chinuch applies.
But he's saying a chiddush that even if there isn't, you're arguing that maybe chinuch applies, but he's saying even if chinuch doesn't apply, there's a hefter according to Tosas. Where does Tosas say this? It's on the bottom here. V'enkan chinuch. The Tosas sham lo hisker dover say. Says Tosas doesn't say even when chinuch doesn't apply. Tosas just says there's a hefter misham chinuch. For Rabbeinu chiddush kain. And this is the Minchas Chinuch Chiddush l'daita mutter lachol katan af makom shekvar ochel, even if there's no chinuch. So he says, where does he? So he's l'chor bothered. Where does Minchas Chinuch get to say this so pashut?
Right.
Yesh levarad far. He says you could explain the Chinuch sheet. The Minchas Chinuch sheet is shaharei kvar hikshu achronim. What's the pshat Tosas? The Chinuch is only the rabbanon. Eich yeh rashoy lahachol katan iser deraisa mishum Chinuch dera badan. How does the lo sachilim go off? Because of Chinuch. It's the rabbanon. Mushim kach mefarish rabbeinu could be because of that kasha the chinuch understood Tosas. She'eina heter misha mitzvahs chinuch. It's not the pshat Tosas that Minchas Chinuch pushes aside the Yisrael lo sachilim. Ela shedvarim sheshayach b'hem mitzvahs chinuch einam domim l'nevelos shratzim. And there's the pasuk of lo sachilim by nevelos and trefus. And even if you learn out the other isurim, so Tosas meant that you only find this isur by isurim which don't have an inyan of chinuch by. There's no chinuch by nevelos and trefus by those psukim. But a mitzvah where there's an onion of chinuch, maybe there is no lo sachilim, so it's not because it's chinuch.
Right.
But maybe those mitzvahs that have chinuch, there is no isser lo sachilum, so it doesn't make a difference if in this case you're doing chinuch or not. El shedvarim sheshach them mitzvahs chinuch, einam domen leveil shechefus. The ain lesser behem to give to a kain after makom shein shach mitzvahs chinuch. So I don't know if this rabbi's svara, where he's quoting for someone. Let me just see. It says 72. V'chein nira hilashon tosas arashbam misachim shavdiri maskal seh. Sheikar achila kul t'ris chinuch anat she'ein lilmod mishratz min avelos lesser el makom shlo shach bo chinuch. But in a mitzvah, well, that's still not that language. The makom shlo shach bo chinuch. It just means in a makom that it is chinuch. There's no lesser, but he's stretching it to mean by a mitzvah which is shach chinuch, that by that mitzvah there's no lo sachilum. No matter what. But I think he's
almost like los of chinuch becomes like a chinuch type thing. This is something that absolutely is always forbidden, therefore you don't want to give it to him. But this over here, it's like...
Here is, I remember, the other, I think, brings a Chumas addition that the engine of los of chinuch is a chinuch type of thing. So it's not so far off.
So, see.
Ulam, he says, Lahala Naka Rabbanu. He says, later on there's a mitzvah chinuch. He says, a mitzvah kuf tes vav. The chinuch himself holds shaf and dams the toes the same hatter l'kan el v'makom mitzvahs chinuch. So he's saying here, he says even when it's tosis, it's mutter even in the makom shesnach chinuch. But he says later on the chinuch says the tosis sheet is only makom chinuch. And the question is, why does chinuch help? So you could say the tosis the Rosh Hashanah that is dominion in the Beis Shefes where there's no, you have to mechanech on the lab, but here for here you're being mechanech on the mitzvah. Okay.
It's just interesting in terms of chinuch and the to define chinuch pursuant to the pratim of the. I know that in the pratim of, I mean, you have this issue by like the lulav and esrog about the kashrus of the esrog in terms of giving it to a kid. So,
right.
So
it's a whole bit more focus.
right. So this seems to be somewhat tied to it. If it's mamish that you have to get him to actually mekayim mitzvah, then you have an argument that then it's not chinuch anymore if he's already been mekayim the mitzvah in that definition. But if you sit there, if you understand chinuch that
we're training him.
You're just training him, so I mean there it's still a problem because the training is still you just have to eat once today, so still.
Who says there's any need of training to eat more? Fakir, that's not really training.
And it's not really training. It's not the same as I mean even in terms of chinuch when you still can't train him with a lemon. I mean that's has to have some
shackles to the mitzvah.
Some shackles to the mitzvah.
Okay, so we finished we're in the middle of the paragraph. The ayin leil, that's we're up to, right? The ayin who are arrived at Elokian alaza. He says the Ravid who says this slav includes ayin lemnuya. Do you get malchus on this lav? Achdu pashat mehechi teisi lo yilkochu. Why should you get malchus if you feed it and you're doing a ma'asid b'chol lav and shabbatara?
There's a right that it's interesting because in the language of the Gemara is not to is lahachil, or that's the question. So the smad learns can learn it straightforward. It means for them to eat it. Rambam's learning it is feeding them.
Right.
When the Rambam changes, when the Ravid now changes it to include lo menuyev, you have a little problem with the.
Is it lahachil or to eat?
Right. So if he so does the Ravid hold lahachil to be?
I don't know. Especially you have to look up the language of the Ravid. Okay, that's something that's important to look up. Everybody says it's Pashas, but happy taste lo yilka kol alav and Shabbat Torah. Why shouldn't there be malchus? We had Svaras that could be lahachil, wasn't that considered a ma'aser, right?
Right.
So I don't know. You have to see what the Ravid holds. It's got to be when you're ma'achil, not shalom nuyav. When you're ma'achil, actually if he holds that's because of Shalom Leave, then you have to see what he holds the cases in the Michael Leoch. You're right, I don't know.
Right.
But that's
if he's holding how he gets the love, is if he holds the love is not to feed a goy, and then he extends it because it means not to feed
anyone who's not in the Minu,
and then that means that someone who's in the Minu shouldn't eat of it. It's a little bit further down, so you could argue that Makos may not apply. It could be he doesn't even hold the Isser on the person. Shalom Leib. Maybe he holds the whole Isser Shalom Leib is to feed him Shalom Leib. We have to see what he actually holds. If he holds the gear and the Toshav, it's because of Lahachil, so maybe he just learns out from there. You can't be Machel Shalom Leib. When he says it's allowed, maybe it's only on the Machel, not on the Ochel, and it could be he holds there is no Isser on Ochel at all. So we have to look up. You have to push and see how he says it. I'm just trying to see where he brings down the right. So he says.
He brings down the language of the right there.
He says Hine right hanal but Osa Kedemus. So.
Where in Mitzvah Yud Gimel?
That's what he says. Osa Kedemus.
Yeah, he says I only have Mitzvah Yud Gimel Os Yud Beis. It says in my book Mitzvah Yud Gimel Os Yud Beis. Let's see if he brings it. That's Kedai to look up. Mitzvah Yud Gimel. He said in the Chinuch, in the Minchas Chinuch Os Yud Beis. That's going on by a mummer, right? So this is Os Yud Beis.
But then he says, "Hine arrived hanal but also Kedemus." Interesting above.
But my Savior has it differently. He has the Ravid. He says the Ravid is in I can't find it. Let's see. No, here it says, I figured I was reading where there was going to something else. Here it says, Ba'os HaKademus. When he means in this mitzvah, but that's not what he brings. Das Ravid Kan Ba'asakos, Perik Tes Alachazayin, the Lav Hazahu Shalol Lemnuyav. Right? So he doesn't bring down the language in the Michael Yochel. Maybe we have to look in Perik Tes Alachazayin in the Rambam.
Where it's at, where does he say this? You found it in Osdal?
Yeah, well, that's paragraph before Ose was Das arrived at Kanva Cycles Parak.
Oh, right there.
The question is you have to look up in Parak Tesla Chazayin how the Ravid
how he defines it.
How he defines it over there.
It's Machel or
both.
Yeah.
Okay. One more. Halacha Vav. Also, the nearer the Nimna al Shnei Psachim Ke'echad, a person bought himself a chelik and he was in the meaning of two different psachim. V'vur b'Rambam kan perek gimel halacha aleph me'ashas psachim perek peiches and beis. The ein of ochel mishum echad mehem. He's no good for either one of them. The ein nimnim al shnei psachim ke'echad, because you can't be in the meaning of two psachim, and the Rambam understands that to mean so therefore they're both no good. Im avar v'ochal, so if he did go ahead and eat over balav hazeh, because kivan the ein nimnal shnei psachim havelei ki'ilu lo nimnal shom echad v'havelei nechel shalom nui. But he means according to the Ravid. Shalom nui.
Actually, in the note, I mean, it seems it's strange it's being done in the Rambam, but this note over here in the Sefer says the das arrived in the Nobos.
Yeah, because I see why, because we skipped the line, I skipped the line, but right before Oz Vav, it says the das akes of Mishasham, but das Aram, the Shalom Nu Yavenu over El Esa.
Right.
So he obviously, when he says a lab, he must be going in the
right. But it's just interesting because now he's going back to he's bringing this down in the Rambam, but then. Essentially, he goes back to the language of love, just like.
But if he didn't say he wants to be a many of both, he says, I'll choose later which one I want. But he doesn't want to be a money on both. But he bought himself a chelik, but he says, I'm leaving it up to myself to choose which one I want to be Yotzi with. The Gam Kain Einu Ochel Mitam Ein Brer, but we paskin Ein Brer, so you can't choose later. So you won't be able to give a malchus, even if there is malchus on this level. So why not? The Raisa Ein Brer Mach Masafik. This is a big malchus. When you hold Ein Brer, Rashi says Ein Brer means you have a suffix, because you don't know, the future can't tell you which was. So it could be one Pesach was going to be the one you're going to choose, and we don't know what happened later, but it's a suffix which one. And since it's a suffix, so you can't say if he eats any of them that he's over shlo lemnuya, because maybe this is a lemnuya. So that's what he says. With rice ain't brave, it's only a suffix. That's very matikin. But that's not so pasha. Tosas sheet is if you hold ain't brave, you can't make a chalos that's going to be a suffix. So therefore, there's no Menuyev at all whatsoever, so it would end up you're not Menuyev and you have this law. But he's going, I don't know why he's picking Rashi Shita, because most people don't agree with Rashi Shita, but he's saying that with the Bidrai saying Brer Machal Safek. But Dvarim Atik in this whole Yisod what Ein Brer means. However, Benimna Papam Achas Ashneim Kachah, where you didn't say Ma'ash Yirtza, Nira Davle Shneim Shalom Yirtza, for sure they're both Shalom Yirtza, it's nothing to do with Ein Brer and his Safek, that's for sure, it's you're not in the immediately. But locally, you'll get malchus if according to the right. V'ayin shas sham v'tosi remansi b'tanya u'basi rak l'orer. Okay, what time is it?
9:40.
9:40, so we have to stop.